go on the gallery mode. That may be better. So
Yeah.
we can see as many people.
Yeah, there's not going to be any presentation or anything.
Yeah.
It's gonna be- Hey, Anand, you were muted when you were.
Yeah, I realized that. Now I can speak.
Okay. Hi, Harsh, and your nice tuxedo. Let's give it a couple of minutes.
Yeah. I think the cold weather and Friday night.
Yeah,
Hello.
You're muted, Harsh.
All right, I have 3 mutes going. Hopefully you can hear me now. Good afternoon.
Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
good
Yeah,
afternoon.
you're just getting things set up here. Give it a minute.
Yeah, we have a wonderful weather for you, sir. We're glad to have you from California.
I
Sub-0
know.
degrees.
There is a little bit of a story behind it also, so we'll get into that. You're going to tease them a little bit about it. Hi, Roshan.
There we go. Can you hear me now? How you doing?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Congratulations on all the great developments at your end recently in your fund and all that.
Thank you. It's exciting.
That's
Getting
good.
into the bug business.
Nexus or no? Wow, it's interesting. Yeah.
Don't know. Different one.
So Roshan, I don't know, there's a venture firm in the Bay Area called Nexus Venture Partners. I don't know if you know them at all or not. I was for a moment thought that you are their Dallas representation.
You know, in retrospect, Nexus probably wasn't the best name in the world, but 8 years later, it's kind of hard to change the name. Yeah, we're familiar. There's a bunch. There's like New Energy Ventures. There's a few that share the name. There's even one called Nexus Fuels that we've been confused with. So
Okay, we have a few more people joining also. Sai, how are you, Sai? How are you, Mr. Ashok Kumar? Dr. Patel, Ashwin Patel. Did I miss anybody? There was a few other folks that were on the waiting room. Just total 9. There you are. Next one, Ashok Venu. Okay.
Oh, there are some more people coming in.
Manish, this is, I think, your contact, right?
Yeah.
Your
Manish
colleague.
is there.
Yeah, okay. All right, gentlemen, and it's about 2 minutes. What time is it?
I don't know what you guys do. You know, in the Bay Area, we have something called Charter Membership Lounge.
Yeah.
So we give 10 minutes for people to stroll in.
10 minutes.
So that's on a weekend, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
typically
Yeah,
so it's exactly like this, by the way, but we do that between 4 and 6 p.m. California time.
Okay.
And we started doing that right when I became the president, and we just have to deal with this. Meaning, the pandemic hit us, right? So we have no other way for charter members to hang out.
Yeah.
So we started doing this virtual charter member lounge.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good.
So
how's
does
everybody
it
doing?
start with a beverage too?
We have yes,
We are ready. We
I
are
will second
celebrating.
that. All right, so maybe
Yeah,
I should
John.
hold off and get my beverage in first.
Yeah.
Friday evening. How can you start it without a beverage?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, I know your weather is so nice that my flight got canceled. So I did all this very nicely because I had worked till yesterday, and I was talking to Ram, said let's do something today evening, and then I did that, and then I cannot go back now. Dallas just sucked me in right now.
Right. That's right. We haven't captive.
Yeah.
So, all right. I guess we'll get we'll get going here.
Please. Yeah.
And as people join, they can pick it up. It's going to be fairly informal anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, hope everyone is enjoying the beautiful weather, and stay warm and safe, folks. I know it's still a little slick out there, and it's supposed to refreeze tonight. We decided to move the session online, obviously. We were going to have it in person in the office and then go out for happy hour and all that, but things had to change because of this inclement weather and the refreeze that's expected later tonight. It's my pleasure formally to introduce A.G. Karunakaran, or AGK as he is popularly called. And he's a quintessential Valley entrepreneur. Has had a long-term association with the Thai organization. I've had the pleasure of knowing him over the years in my trips back and forth to the Valley. In fact, I was telling him earlier, I was remembering the time when I was at his house in 2017 at the Oscar night. And that was the one Oscar where it was, there was a big goof up between La La Land and Moonlight. I think it was the name of the movie that they wrongly gave the award to La La Land, and then they reverted back to Moonlight. I was just telling him about that evening.
Exactly.
We were recently together at the TGS and retreat in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. He's got a tremendous wealth of knowledge and experience in the venture world, in the entrepreneurial world, in the venture scene, and as far as the organization is concerned, in terms of where all we have been, where we are wanting to go, and so on. So as we were saying earlier, we have him captive here. He had business here to take care of here in Dallas. So we said we should have you talk to our group. And lo and behold, we didn't know that it was going to be like this in the weather situation. I was going to ask him, so what is the plan? Is this checking out the scene here and trying to see if he's going to make a move himself? What is the verdict so far? And you have checked it out in the last couple of days?
Oh, no. I hear a lot about, the great trip to the red state, but I'm not considering one. No, I mean, but to be honest, I did consider several years ago. One of my co-founders started a semiconductor company in Austin, so I was thinking perhaps I should also move and spend time with him, but I decided against it, and I'm still a California resident for now.
We won't hold that against you.
So you don't mind paying high taxes in California?
No, somebody has to keep the state wealthy. No, I'm just joking. I think it's once you've lived there, and so many people and well connected, right? Relationships have more value, than how much you can save here and there on taxes. So that's my perception, at least. But when I took a look at it, I looked at it for a completely different reason. Not 2 years ago, 4 years ago, because then I get to work with my co-founder a lot more, because we've created this other semiconductor company. But then even then we felt that it's better to be there, because when it comes to fundraising for that business and all that stuff, it was very helpful to use the Bay Area connection. So that's why I chose to stay there. Mm-hmm. And at that time, my daughter was still in college. She was studying at Stanford. So I said, that's another reason for me to be there. Now she's, of course, moved out. We won't know. We'll see.
So what is your prediction, AGK? What is the next company that's going to make a move out here after all the other ones that have announced already? What's your best guess?
I don't know. I mean, certainly Tesla has
already made a move.
Is a new company. I hear that cars are rolling out the factory in Austin and all that stuff. So that's good to know. But I mean, these things, at least from corporate America standpoint, it's way too difficult to predict, right? I mean, they do the shopping game and things like that. But Austin certainly is attracting a lot more people. I don't know about Dallas, but every tech company that whatever the FANG companies, I think that all of them are seriously considering
Yes.
Austin, from what I understand. Yeah,
So-
especially the younger generation. I see lots of I call it ABCD kids, right? The people who are born and brought up, even in the Bay Area, they are all beginning to move to Austin. I'm
Right,
noticing
right.
that. It seems like it's attracting younger generation a lot more.
Yeah. So along those lines, we were just wondering here, is this a trend that's going to continue for a while, or is it just a passing phase? And if so, how long can we expect that to happen? Obviously, we know all the reasons: business-friendly climate and the challenges that are involved in doing business in California and so on. But having said all that, the valley has its charm and it has its excitement, and a lot of us even here keep going back and forth. And I have a place there. I call it my second home. So that's never going to go away. But what is your sense of what is happening from a mega trend standpoint? Is this a longer term transition?
I mean, when we, the way I look at it is you need to look at three, buckets, right? I mean, the startup, if you really take a look at the startup buckets, considering the fact that significant amount of venture capital money is there in the Bay Area, I personally think that the startup dynamics, with various changes in the last 30 years, at least I've been 30 plus years, I've been there in the Valley. The technology waves, right? Come and go, whether it's a fabulous revolution, whether it's networking companies, compute companies, web 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0. All of these kind of companies, they they ride the, I call it technology and VC, what do you call, love-hate relationship,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So once the companies mature and they are at a certain scale and things like that, where there could be benefits in terms of different type of taxations and all that, then there is a possibility for you to get out of the valley. But I personally think from the startup bucket standpoint, I personally think the valley will continue to lead. And there are other ecosystems around the world that may happen, but because of the venture capital, they want to be close to their companies and things like that. So I personally think startup buckets will be there. The bigger companies, it depends, I would say, because as they scale and the rate at which they are scaling, then they will look out for different options. Many companies went to areas where there are good quality talent. So in the good quality talent perspective, we've got people have gone to Seattle area a lot. They've gone to Austin. So that kind of transitions could happen on the big company standpoint.
Yeah.
The third is really, I call it manufacturing. Manufacturing is where I think there could be the labor friendly and labor law friendly, and as well as taxation friendly states will benefit from that. So there could be, I mean, I look at startups, large companies, with purely tech and there's no manufacturing in that sense, and then the manufacturing type of companies. And that's where I'll see the more manufacturing you are, chances are they may get out of California.
A couple of more questions, then I want to ask the audience for their questions for you. Let's shift gears a little bit. Last week or two that we have seen in the market in terms of the pressure it has created in the public markets, what we have seen, do you think that is going to start having an effect in the private markets also, and especially from a value standpoint, from the venture standpoint, or the mainstream VCs being affected in some shape or form? And more particularly, we deal with Sharos being pitching to us and trying to determine valuations. Is there valuation pressure from venture standpoint, or if not, is there a timeline in terms of when that pressure will start sinking in? Because depending on how you look at it, we can all say the valuations lately has been very frothy, and there was some correction that needed to be made had anyway. You're seeing any of that there in terms of valuation
I mean, I
corrections?
think, this is, the way I look at the waterfall effects from a public market correction is right. It may have some impact in the late stage companies, companies that are contemplating going public or taking a mezzanine round or going to SPAC kind of route. I don't know. There are many companies going SPAC here, but there's a lot of talk about SPAC. In fact, last week we had a session in the Silicon Valley where we had, one of the SPAC promoter. So, they had a good session, educative session for entrepreneurs, and we've been having that in the Valley, even though SPACs as an instrument has been around for a long time, but many tech companies are beginning to adopt it, especially automotive type of companies, right? Where you still have a lot of core technology, you're still far away from revenue, but there is a promise to revenue. Then SPAC is an alternative, right? Those kind of companies that are about to go public or they're in their mezzanine round kind of financing, they may have some challenges because the market's jittery, saying that, hey, will they get the liquidity they're looking for within the 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, whatever that horizon that those investors are looking for. But when it comes to Series A
Early
and B
stage.
companies, some, and I've been in the Valley now, like I said, for 30 years, and I've seen different types of waves, right?
Yes, yes.
And great companies gets created when things, when the stock market is low or whatever, right? I mean, 2002, 1-2 time frame is a great example. Of course, 8-9 time frame is another example where companies are built. So the market is there to correct, and that's really from a public market perspective. So where there could be challenges also is that today or up until last year, even now, I think there's a lot of angel money floating around, meaning that people give up, give money to early stage entrepreneurs to kind of get themselves, some kind of an MVP or some, in the case of cloud and all, some kind of a monthly recurring revenue. Those kind of funding may also disappear. So in the sense that disappear in the sense that as the public market is not, it's not, liquidity is low, and when the money is not there, and people trying to take risks with those kind of ventures will also go down. So these are, I would say, the various buckets that I would look at from an investment perspective. And I personally, I don't, worry about these swings related to stock market impacts on startups. Startups, they will survive based on their own merits.
You mentioned angels. We have a fairly active angel group here. It's getting more and more active, and you have obviously a very vibrant angel group there. What do you see how is the angel activity changing or being affected by all this, if at all?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that
several of them on the call here are all angels also.
I mean, it's based on liquidity, right? I mean, if you don't have public market liquidity and you don't have any other cash generating businesses for you to reinvest, from that pot, there is going to be some crunch for those kind of. But it'll take a while for I mean, when I say while, meaning that entrepreneurs will continue to keep pitching to these kind of angel investors. So deal flows will not be a problem. So you get to pick great opportunities provided you have liquidity. That's the way I see it from an angel standpoint. And I think, the number of, I mean, it is not, at least in Silicon Valley, I've not seen that, whether it's good times or bad times, there's always deal flow. Because let's say that there's a bad time and a bunch of people get laid off, then they doodle and think of new ideas, right? So then they come out and raise money for it. And things are going well also, that creates a lot of opportunities and gaps for entrepreneurs to go and fill. So I personally think the entrepreneurial things will continue, right? That's the way I look at it.
Okay. One last question from my side, and then I'll open it up for the folks here to ask you questions. TIE, let's talk about TIE as an organization, and we've done a pretty decent job, I would say, in the last couple of years here in terms of building the various program. The TY, obviously, we've had it for 10 years now. We'll most likely be doing a global program this year in the summer. The Thai University program, Thai Women program, Thai Angels, got a lot of great traction, a lot of support from the community. Collaborated with other chapters here in the country and around the world, and have taken on a bunch of other initiatives also. What are your thoughts about we as a group, several charter members here and in the community, in terms of what you think we could be doing more of in terms of providing greater impact to the community? How can it be more impactful in general from the observations you've made from the chapter there?
Yeah, I mean, just to give some color to the rest of the people who are on this call, right? I mean, even though you and I have known each other, so I'm clearly an example of, I don't know, some people call it, shop floor to top floor in manufacturing analogy, right? I was a beneficiary of Thai back in the mid 90s. I attended the 1995 TaiCon, I remember very clearly. And at that time, it was very, very small group, and from then on, that gave me the tools, I would say, and also some of the, unknowns that related to being an entrepreneur was all unblocked with by the Thai community, in those TaiCons and subsequent conversations. And then, of course, I started a company, and then and I got invited to be a charter member. That was an honor. And then, then you start giving back to the community, and I've done a bunch of things for Thai. I mean, I did the Thai CEO Forum, which is very well. I mean, we still have a core group of 30, 40 CEOs. And at that time, the challenge was that, hey, Desi guys are getting funded, Series A, Series B, and then they get knocked out and somebody else come, take over the CEO. So the VC's changing that. So we said we should create a peer group and try to nurture that, right? So that's how we started, modeling organizations like Vistage and YPO and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That worked well. And clearly at that time, and the reason I'm telling that story was that, myself and Sandeep Gupta back then, we were the co-chairs. And then at the then leadership, the president, the board, and all that said, hey, just go do it and see what happens, right? And that core group of CEOs, we're still very, very good friends, like going to MBA school together. And every month we used to meet. We had a very structured thing, and they're very seasoned charter members back then would moderate the session. And we had a very structured sessions to make sure that as a peer group, we all help each other and we grow, right? So that's what we did. And then subsequently, I've done a bunch of work for Thai, and I was a convener for TaiCon. And then, served on the board for a couple of years, 1 year president-elect, and these 2 years of my term. The reason I'm saying that is you need to have people from the community to get engaged with Thai, and then the Thai should, carry them along, and they feel that they're being carried along. And to some extent, even in Silicon Valley, many people have asked me, hey, is Thai relevant in Silicon Valley anymore, right? Because, all these guys are doing very, very well. But so we are sort of continuously reinventing ourselves because we are celebrating 30 years this year, because Thai was founded in 1992. So we have, while we celebrate our 30 years of fostering entrepreneurship, and our plan is to look forward and see what we can do. So we are looking at multiple programs, keeping Silicon Valley into perspective, but also looking at how we can broadly support entrepreneurs worldwide, right? I call it the global, global and local entrepreneurs. So that's essentially what my view on Thai is, right? But from what I found, the thriving chapters do very, very well. Thai is all about two constituents, in my opinion, right? One is entrepreneurs, of course, or wannabe entrepreneurs and all that stuff. And then the other one is charter members. So an engaged charter membership will make that chapter thrive. I mean, based on my experience working with Thai Chennai as a global support network champion, I felt that until that happened, you have a group of charter members, you have an executive director, and then you bring all these people together, and the vibrancy picks up, and afterwards, you start doing more. So the way I look at it is, as a chapter, if you can focus on the 5 pillars of Thai, and I don't need to preach the choir here, everything,
Yeah.
right? But how do you create that mesh between
Sure.
the entrepreneurs and the charter members? That's where the magic is, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and by the way, it's not easy. I mean, even right now, what we are noticing is in the Silicon Valley, at least, the entrepreneurial support organizations have grown like crazy. I mean, there
Mhm.
are incubators,
Yeah.
there are plug and plays of the world. There is, Y Combinators and all that stuff,
Mhm.
accelerators. So all of these are there, and then there's also universities themselves have their own
Sure.
incubators and all.
Yeah.
So TIE has to make sure that we work in a partnered manner with
Sure.
these organizations,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying that we are the only game in town,
Right.
because we were the only game in town
Long
a
time ago.
long time ago, but
Yeah.
not anymore.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, every region is different, what appeals to you guys, because I've spoken to some of the leaders in the Southern California chapter. They view opportunity to invest brings the
Sure.
charter membership together, right? And so
Mhm.
there is a camaraderie there in terms
Mhm.
of ability to make quality deals,
Mhm. Mhm.
assess, and also invest and all
Sure.
that stuff. So people
Yeah.
come together on that. But from a, we can learn. I mean, everyone has to learn. I mean, as far
Mhm.
as I'm concerned,
Mhm.
one of the things that I'm planning to do in this year is to see how Silicon Valley can connect with
Sure.
various other chapters,
Sure.
not only
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
India,
Yeah.
but also in America, so that we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
work together. In
Absolutely.
fact,
Yeah.
I've been doing that. Every city that I go to, I try to reach out. I mean,
Good.
so do you,
Yeah.
right? You've
Yes,
come and
I do.
reached out.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Great. I'm sure folks here would have some questions. Folks, shoot, whatever questions you might have on any of these topics. It's a
I
informal.
have a free association question, very trivial.
Sure.
So when I go to Bay Area, I see the billboards for Thai, and they have all white people on it. So I was curious, like, is it like more trying to project a more?
Billboard, I don't know where the billboard is.
Where is
Sorry.
it?
It may be around TyCon, I don't know, but I have no idea. I'm not aware of a billboard right now, but if there is one, I'll have to go back and look at the image on that one. But we see your question is correct in the sense that while initially Thai was started with the notion with the Indus entrepreneurs, we are looking at South Asian people of South Asian origin and help them with started by the entrepreneurs, father entrepreneurs kind of syndrome. But now, we need to be inclusive. I mean, if you really take a look at it, that community that's non-Indian today, they're all coming to us and saying, hey, we need to work. I mean, together, right? Because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the number of um, Indian leaders breaking the glass ceiling, whether as a CEO or a board member and all of that, or taking the company public, all of that, they were like, handful, very, very small number of people do that. But now that's not the case. I mean, every tech company CEO is Indian, every CXO has one or two Indians in their, public company or private company, right? So therefore, even the other diasporas, right, or communities, whether it's immigrant or American Caucasian population, they're all wanting to come and bond with Thai. I mean, even in our own board right now, we have certain nominated positions and elected positions, but in the nominated positions, we are trying to bring diversity, inclusion, and also bringing on the next generation. I mean, I'm talking about 30 something or 20 something people, because Thai, by virtue of being 30 years, right? There is a big the demography split, right? There are people in their 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, and then 40s, and afterwards the numbers very, very small. So I have taken an initiative to focus, and one of the goals is to have a vibrant under 40 community, and we are addressing that. We're getting many people from the venture capital community, entrepreneurial community, to come join that group, right? So we have a specific initiative in the valley to have under 40. So when you say under 40, we do high school students, college students, 20 something and 30 something. That's the kind of a thing. So I mean, long-winded answer to your question: are we focused on diversity and inclusion? The answer is yes. Yeah.
No, thanks. That's a good response. But I was expecting at least one desi guy on the billboard. But that's okay.
No, but by the way, where was that billboard,
I
or
don't know.
where?
Maybe it was around the Thai conference. Maybe it's like in Santa Clara somewhere, and it's few years ago. Like I so
It could be also that those billboards, the flash that you may have seen, could also be the speakers at that time, right? Some of the speakers that we may
Yeah.
have showcasing.
probably not. Yeah, but let's not dwell on it. This is just like
Good.
Hey,
Tell us,
Rob. Hey,
Yeah,
GK.
sorry.
go ahead,
sorry.
Ashok. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Ashok.
Ashok.
No, I just, I'm kind of new member here and a new angel as well as, I've been following all the VC world, but I just want to get some big pointers from you as to, based on your experience, what are the things that we should be looking out for? I understand that I'm kind of new to this, so if you
I think
just share some,
the new trends, right? I mean, if you really take a look at it, people are talking about, Web 3.0, crypto, metaverse, those kind of things are up and coming. It's to some extent, it may look like science fiction, but that's what the Valley is all about, right? There are a lot of people trying. The other day, one of the charter members was saying, oh, that he conducts I don't know if any of you do that or not, but his staff meetings, he does it with a virtual reality headset.
Who does?
One of the charter members,
Oh, he does?
Deepak,
Okay.
right? So then
Okay.
everybody has to put on a virtual reality headset. So if you turn around, it looks like I'm sitting next to you. I mean, we are now trying, the things like that, right? I mean, to me, that looks pretty cool. So sometimes you have to practice what you preach or whatever, right? In that particular company, he's doing a startup to create avatars to deliver much better educational content, right? I mean, so if you are a teacher, you could come up with the content, and that content will be auto produced for you without you needing to, what do you call, record yourself and things like that. So pretty unique concept that he has. So things like that. I mean, there are opportunities are revolving around AI when it comes to every aspect of your market and technologies, right? I mean, but from a pure, very, very early stage startup standpoint, these are some of the things that I'm noticing. And then, of course, there are a lot of discontinuities in business processes, and the SaaS companies are trying to solve that also.
Okay.
Hey, Ram. Hey,
Yeah.
GK.
Hey,
Sasan.
Sai.
Hey, how are you guys? So
Doing
this
all
whole
right.
this metaverse thing in this weather would have been amazing. That way, we could have had a more realistic conversation. But it's 20 degrees in Dallas. It's very unusual. But one area I thought I'll get your input, AGK, is I know you briefly mentioned about semis in your comments early on, and also fabless and manufacturing, all of these different things. A very broad topic, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. Today, I think Congress passed a bill for $350 billion for America Innovation Act or something in those lines. And part of that is earmarked for this semiconductor related subsidies, I think around $50 billion. So where I'm going with all of that is this whole issue of bringing the advanced semi manufacturing to US as a national security issue. Intel versus TSMC, US versus China on Taiwan, however you want to see it. How do you see that's going to play out? Do you see any strategic challenges to really do that here in the US? And how do you see long-term all of that playing out?
I mean, see, I mean, if you've gone to I'm assuming that you're I don't know what's your background and you're from the semiconductor manufacturing or not, but fabrication until TSMC picked up and developed Taiwan, right? TSMC, UMC, and all of them. It was predominantly U.S. Kind of led initiative, and then
TI.
TI is right here, but I'm talking about overall. I mean, even today, if you take a look at it, if you're going to take taxpayer subsidy money and then try to invest, they want to invest in the US, and then clearly the big companies, right? Apple, Intel, all of them are looking at if we do significant amount of automation in terms of manufacturing automation I'm talking about, then you could bring it to the US, right? I mean, in terms of these kind of manufacturing, whatever scale that may be. So I think semiconductor is something that people will try to do the turf war, and protecting that
Sure.
would be. I mean, you saw that, was it this week or last week, there was a big announcement by Intel to start up a fab in Ohio. So they are investing tens of billions of dollars to get these fabs up and running. So that'll happen, in my opinion. I mean, depending on multiple things have to line up there. The right kind of weather condition, also the supply chain associated with semiconductor manufacturing, accessibility to those, all of those matters. But I think this administration, I mean, of course, it started with Trump. I think creating this wall with China, and then that continues when it comes to these high ASP type of items, right? So I think that'll continue, in my opinion.
And I think I've heard this from several people. Coming back to the Dallas Metroplex area, it doesn't get talked about much. There's a pretty heavy strength and capability in semis that we still may not have fully leveraged upon. And,
I mean, clearly TI is a great example where they've been a phenomenal company out of Dallas, and of course their presence in Houston and all. But it's really in the corridor. I mean, I would, when it comes to microprocessors, clearly Austin wins, right? I mean, they've had AMD, NXP, or Freescale. It used to be Motorola that became Freescale, now NXP, IBM. All of the PowerPC related CPU development, everything happens over there. So when it comes to microprocessors, clearly Austin wins, I think, from a value perspective. But overall, because of TI's presence here, the rest of the semiconductor from a manufacturing perspective, I think may be good over here. So yeah, I don't know if that, I mean, addressed your question, or did I digress? But feel free to clarify more if you want.
No, I think you talked about it. So it's basically, it's a long-term issue. I know it's going to take time. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. But Intel may need 2-3 years to really bring that kind of advanced capability. From at least, my background is not quite semi. I'm familiar enough, but nevertheless, I thought I'll take your thoughts. But and also the second part of that is, unless there is a volume production in a very, very high volume, Intel could buy all of this advanced capex, into this equipment. But if there isn't enough scale, they'll basically fall behind, because 2-3 years later, all of that equipment is obsolete, and again they have to invest another $10-20 billion. So they will not be able to sustain it. So that's a kind of a long-term trend. Will have to be, I guess, we have to wait and see. Right now, TSMC is thriving because Apple and AMD and everybody is going there, and they are just a kind of this outsourced manufacturer. But if that kind of a volume is not there with our domestic manufacturing, then don't know how it's all going to pan out, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, see, it's not only wafer, right? I mean, you also have to worry about everything else: packaging, testing, all of that has to happen, and those are all manual labor intensive kind of tasks. Some of them are. So, but there perhaps there is less China dependency. There are other countries who've got these kind of packaging and test capabilities. So So we'll see how that pans out, right? But end of the day, um, you know, we all know that the amount of semiconductor content is only increasing in every gadget that you can think of, right? That all of us use. So that is the opportunity for the industry. And the amount of, we just had a last charter member, virtual charter member lounge we had, the conversation was related to the new opportunities in the semiconductors, right? I mean, I think in the mid 90s, it was all about electronic design automation, fabless chip companies, and all of that. And in the second, I mean, the early part of 2000s is all about reusable IPs and all of that, which our company benefited, the company that I used to run before. And then, of course, it suddenly semiconductor went out of fashion when it became Web 2.0 and all that stuff. But now with AI acceleration, I mean, it's up. So many companies are out there right now that are getting funded in a significant way. Because I mean, to some extent, there's waves, right? I mean, right now, people want to take advantage of the learning and inference wave that's happening in the AI, and there are semiconductor companies propping up like crazy, right? I mean, I think the last I counted was, there could be, I mean, there was 200 lidar companies, right?
Wow.
And some of them are mechanical, some of them are semiconductor based, and then there's you know AI accelerator companies, at least 100 of them, depending on the various stages, right? So these all consume, I mean, one tape out is 30, 40, $50 million, depending on which geometry that you go to. So therefore, you need to have a couple $100 million of financing for you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then imagine, some of them are going to succeed, some of them are going to get early exits. Intel acquired a bunch of them already, and there's going to be a wave of shutting down and exits and all that, right? I mean, that's all this happens.
This is Venu Menon. I had a kind of a follow-up to the semiconductor question. Do you, and by the way, I retired from Texas Instruments with many years there, so very familiar with the semi landscape. I'm curious to hear your points on vertical integration among the bigger companies, especially like Apple. A lot of them have now moved design. Facebook is building a huge design team for semiconductors. Apple has a big one. So do you see that trend even moving, accelerating, and then perhaps even moving into manufacturing?
I don't know about manufacturing, to be honest, because all of these companies are embracing what do you call, a top-down approach or a fully integrated approach. They have been used to outsourcing their manufacturing anyway, right? I mean, Apple and Foxconn are hand in glove, as we all know. So I don't think they want to keep the design in house because they want that. Otherwise, what happens is it became a Wintel game, right? We all knew in the PC world, it was controlled by Winter. I mean, Windows, Microsoft Windows, and Intel. Determine what kind of components one need to be using in the PC world and all. But now it's not like that, right? It depends. I mean, they're so vertically integrated, nobody knows until a new iPhone comes what the feature of that product is, right? Because they can keep it hush hush for the longest time until the product launch is there. So one is for clearly competitive differentiation, and the other thing is their ability to, I mean, for the lack of a better word, hide things, right? When I say hide things, if you're working with an external third party, if there is some bug either in the hardware or in the software, then it becomes a finger pointing game, and it causes a lot of problem. Whereas here, they could change it into a feature and then still launch a product or something like that, right? So that is the other benefit that I see. But not all of them can afford to. I mean, it's really the FANG companies can afford to because they have all the money in the world. So there's still room for startups, but of course, the huge companies, they will have their own vertically integrated solutions. Starting from developing licensing IPs or developing their own IPs and putting it together. So that's why when companies like Intel are putting up the fab, I also think at some point in time they would also do what TSMC does for these big companies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a given. In fact, Pat Gelsinger has already announced that Intel's going to offer foundry services with their advanced fabs.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of it's public. I'm not even sure. I don't know what they've said. But one of the reasons that they acquired, I think, Altera also is because of that. I think because they were already building parts for Altera. I think at some point in time. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's very interesting when it comes to those opportunities. I mean, who would have thought there'll be like hundreds, if not, 1,000 engineers working on silicon at these companies? It's going back to in time, right? In the early 90s, that was the case, but now it's a full circle after 20, 30 years. Yeah.
When it comes to the deal flow that you guys are seeing, are you seeing an increase in, from an angel perspective, and staying on the thread a little bit on manufacturing as well, but are you seeing more appetite by startups and entrepreneurs willing to accept more of a hardware aspect to their business, whereas it's been a little bit harder for entrepreneurs in the past? And you see an appetite within the Bay Area to take on some more, let's just generally call it sensors, or even I've seen an uptick in my business world around just clean tech entrepreneurs. But do you feel like there's more of an appetite of deal flow and what you're seeing around a hardware component to the number of startups, or is it still heavy software focused within the
I
Bay
mean,
Area?
it's easier and takes less amount of money to de-risk the technological part, and then very quickly go to product market fit kind of analysis when you're a software company, right? So they can put less money to work, and then they can see these companies grow, and they can put more money to work down the road for customer acquisition and market scale. Whereas when it comes to hardware, certain amount of money has to go in, as I said, right? I mean, you cannot get a working silicon without 25, $30 million, if not even more, in some cases, $45 million to get a working chip. I mean, leave alone the subsequent cuts and things like that, and the other costs associated to launching that silicon. So it is heavy, but if the product idea is good and the market is big enough, people are willing to write checks. And AI acceleration as a broad category and sensors as another category are clearly examples. I mean, the sensors also, I mean, LiDARs and all got overinvested a few years ago. And now those companies are looking at non-automotive use cases so that they can survive, and of course, and then they all, whoever was lucky to go SPAC, they were also heavily punished. Yeah.
Hmm.
In the AI space, are you seeing a lot of platform play, or people that are doing some specific AI development for specific industries? Is that where the more action is in terms of startups and?
Again, it's different, right? I mean, AI is everywhere. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, a simple when text inference, right, using NLP techniques, that's one bucket where there's a lot of enterprise application to a lot of voice enabled use cases like Alexa territory and Hey Google territory. And then of course there's a bunch of computer vision based. Basically, you apply AI techniques on traditional RGB data for you to do different type of use cases. I'm talking about applications like Ring and all. And then there are your thermostat. So depending on the type of our company, I mean, and the reason I'm saying is that our company provides a platform called humanbehavior.ai, hube.ai, and that's a set of API. People can make calls, and they don't need to make all the investments they need to make for them to understand the human behavior. Now that can be used in multiple vertical markets, right? I mean, it can be for retail, proctoring, healthcare, sales, recruiting. So a bunch of different applications are possible, but each of those verticals need not develop their own human behavior engine, right? So they could make API calls to companies like us, and then we can provide the necessary outcome. So the opportunities are everywhere when it comes to application down, but you also need to go compute up, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't have these computationally intensive algorithms running very, very slowly, running 1 frame per second or 2 frames per second, then it's not solving the problem. So again, everywhere the application is there, and that's what our company specializes on. We have 2 vertical markets, which is autonomous vehicles and automotive, and then the other one that we work on is media broadcast and in general AI analytics. So that's why I literally have 2 business units in my company. One is autonomous vehicle and automotive business unit, and the other one is media and AI analytics. So even in broadcast, for example, right? I mean, we are on this call right now. I very quickly see plugins where all of us are on the call. At the end of the call, perhaps the organizer of the call or somebody can get some kind of an analysis on how the call went, who was engaged, who was not engaged, all that kind of thing. So there are startups in the valley already doing that, but they were doing it vertically. But if they could make calls like our company provides API calls, and we can just get paid on the APIs, and somebody else can get paid on the application itself. So that's what I would say.
What's a good resource to find out what's going on in the AI world in Silicon Valley, in a little bit more at the lower level? See what companies, what their value prop is, and things like that. Is there a place I can go to and say, hey, look, this.
I mean, there's no one place, right? I mean, there is there is AI hardware summit, there is AI software summit. We have TI, for example, right? In addition to the TiCon track we have for AI ML, we also have I think was it in November, I think, or October, November timeframe, we had an all-day AI ML, a blockchain AI summit. So things like that, where we bring in the intersections of technologies into that. And again, it's unfortunately, I can't pick one repository for you to go to, but these are broad things I'll tell you.
Yeah. You may have to work hard then. That's what you're saying.
No, I mean, you just have to. I'm just saying, put a plug for Silicon Valley. Stay engaged with us.
Okay. Cool.
So, just as a fairly new charter member, what is the best way, and how do we stay plugged in? Is it so? I was recently in Houston. I just emailed people until I got plugged in. Is there a wider TI platform that I should be aware of, or new members
Yes,
should be aware of?
I mean, Ram, you should answer the question. I don't want to do that, but you can.
No, let's go ahead. I mean, feel free. AGK.
No.
Well, there's a number of forums, Roshan. I think the things like what we are doing now, right? Being able to connect you with different chapters. I know you recently went to Houston, connected with Ram Shenoy there and the group there. So by being a charter member, you're not only connected to the local ecosystem on the group of charter members here, but you're instantly connected to the worldwide. I was going to say fraternity, but it is not fraternity. It's more fraternity, sorority, whatever it is. That thing that it's around the world. So it's available to us, and anywhere you go, these are very accomplished folks across the spectrum of our community. Thank you, Doc. So that's available. There are different initiatives. There's a huge effort right now as we speak, and this was also a theme that came up during our TGS conference and the retreat on sustainability and ESG, and there's a lot of interest around that. So depending on your special interest, there could be special interest groups you can attach yourself to and engage in the conversation there. So there's a number of things like that happen, and I think more things are being put in place as we speak.
That's great. It was actually
Roshan,
Yes.
sorry, go ahead, finish your thought. Yeah.
No, I was just saying. So I tried logging into the website, Ram, and like there's a members page, but I don't think it's a full list of members. I don't know if that's active or not.
You
Um,
okay? We should pick that up. We should take it up offline, because you should be able to get access to all the charter members around the world. As a
Okay.
charter member, you should have access.
cool. All right. So I'll hit you up outside of here.
Yeah. I mean, Roshan, I mean, I was going to say that the Thai is also now, I mean, we had, some kind of a, for those of you who don't know already, right? But there is a I mean, for brand I mean, what do you call, protection and enforcement, whatever you want to call them, and then also to bring all the Thai chapters together. And there are common programs that the common programs that we have, and those common programs like Thai University, women, youth, and all of that. There's an opportunity for chapters to collaborate together, and such activities are, I call it managed by Thai Global. And of course, Vijay Menon is the executive director of Thai Global. And then each chapter, gets to represent, by way of electing through the Thai Global trustees. There's about 12 of them. So 11 of them, I think. So that's sort of the that group, and of course and they kind of take the responsibility of connecting us to the various chapters. So what I do is, like in this particular case, I mean, I've known Ram for a while, and the moment I realize that I'm coming here, I do that. I do that too. I went to Coimbatore. I gave a talk, something like this, because I'm always looking for ways for what are you looking for? Sorry.
No, this light is coming too strong.
Yeah. So it's to some extent, right? I mean, I always say that the power of ties. One of the salient value prop of Thai is networking, but it also directly is tied to each individuals associated with the network, right? If you don't take the effort to connect with the people and leverage the network, then I always say, right, the power of the network is the network itself, right? So if you don't network, you will not get the benefit of it. So I strongly recommend, you're new, you're welcome. Feel free to, when you come to the Bay Area, reach out to us. Our executive director will, try to connect. And I mean, even in this group, right? I mean, I really, we never, I mean, it's a small group. So we never had an opportunity to kind of get to know each other. That also would help, right? And so we can do our part of making those connections one way or another, right? I mean, depending on end of the day, we all have to help each other out. That's the way I look at it.
And AGK just reminded me the various programs that we've got going. We've got a lot of traction around that. And since you asked, Roshan, I'm going to volunteer you as a mentor to one of our programs, the Thai University program that's kicking off right as we speak, and so as the TYE program. Of course, I'm joking. We'll
no, let's do it. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, and it's a great program. You'll love it working with these kids, and they have amazing ideas, and a lot of them have turned out to be pretty interesting businesses down the line. It's very gratifying. So I'd love to get you involved in those programs. In fact, the TYE Global 20, I hope I'm not making this announcement prematurely, but with our track record of having conducted TYE program for the last 10 years, we've been approached to conduct the global event. So this year we are going to do it. It's all virtual, but we're going to need a lot of engagement, support, and volunteers among the charter members. So I'll love to get your help on that front as we put that together. It's going to be in June sometime.
I was going to follow up on the early comment you made about the whole metaverse and virtual reality. I'm kind of curious to see, how real is it in the Valley in terms of new startups in that space? Is this something that is ways out in terms of practical applications and usage by common people like us, or is this something that you see a fairly large pivot in the near term?
I mean, we are, I see a lot, especially with the younger generation, right? I see, I don't own a VR headset, but I know several of our charter members own it and then they dabble with it. So, one is, of course, gaming. Another one is, the the different type of content people produce for you to get, you don't need to travel to experience certain places and things like that. And this having virtual conference rooms, with the VR headsets, those are all novel, and in terms of uh, are there startups, starting and dying on that space? Absolutely, right? But are there some of them still surviving with more and more capital infusion? On the, again, vertically integrated stuff, right? You need to have hardware, and you need to have the software infrastructure, and also content to consume in those devices. So that's I call it the opportunity. So there are startups. There are specific VCs who focus on that also.
There was a question on the chat here from Doc, Satyajit Doctor. By the way, Satyajit runs our TI University program, and his question is, how do you measure our angel activity? How do you personally measure angel activity success? Is that right, Doc?
Yeah, I was just trying to see, I think, what are your parameters to say, well, I think my investments are doing well, not well. What kind of impact do you look for?
To be really honest, I was having lunch with one of your past presidents here, Paul Pandian, and he was talking about his own experience as an angel investor, right? One thing that I found is that you need to sprinkle enough to get one or two pops, right? It's not otherwise. Then as an angel investor, you will feel that you've lost out a lot, right? It's really spreading your bets, and that's why it's important for you to look at multiple deals and not just participate in one. That's one input I can give. And how do you measure? I think many times we all know the average gestation for a startup, from founding to exit is going to be anywhere. I would say average is 7-8 years or something like that, right? It can stretch to 10 years. Some can get lucky and return you money in 3-4 years or something like that. So because of that, many people that I know, they'll say that, hey, they sprinkle, we'll see what happens, right? That's the attitude, as opposed to really tracking certain metrics. It's a question of, instead of spray and pray, it's spray and help, right? You spray the money and then you help the startups, and some guys will succeed, some don't.
Along those lines, Doc, does that answer your question? Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So along those lines, so the investment philosophies have traditionally been different between the Valley and how we do business here in the heartland, so to speak, in Texas and so on. So let's face it, more conservative in terms of how we approach business building and investment and so on. We look for fundamentals, we look for revenue, we look for profitability, things like that, right? But for lack of a better word, are not really, they're dismissed to a large extent. These are all secondary because they're looking at different kinds of metrics. The Valley philosophy is different. So where I'm going with that is, do you think there's got to be a little bit, the different kind of approach, or is that our differentiator? Should we continue down that path, or is there some kind of a different mindset we could adopt?
I mean, the only thing that, I really don't know how many angel investment opportunities do you have, in terms of new companies being formed and they are presenting to your own angel group, if you have one for your chapter. But nowadays, the way the Thai Global Angels is good, where every deal is presented to all the charter members. I think so, right?
Yeah,
So it's
starting to happen, I think.
with the I see that either this month there were one Valley company and one Portland company, which I'm but many of the people in the Thai are invested, called Himex Health, and these companies are being presented to the much broader community. So that may be one way to do it. So you are getting ultimately, right? Why does a startup die, right? It's because either they are too early, in many cases, they run out of money, right? And if you give them enough money at the stage of angel investment itself, so that they can de-risk multiple things, whether it's technology, whether it's a go-to-market and all that stuff, that will be good. And that's what I think the pooling benefit will happen. I think the challenge of you not having enough deal flow will get solved by this broader presentation. But that also means that your mindset has to change, because the deal maker, for that particular opportunity, or the company that we are investing in, depending on their own location, they may want to have certain type of transactions. So if you find a company in the Bay Area, there are multiple options, right? We're not the only game in town to put money into them. So because of that, we need to play by their rule. But if there's a company in another jurisdiction where there are not many choices the entrepreneur has, perhaps you can do a different type of negotiation when it comes to how you structure the deal. But end of the day, pooling benefits, and then that way you can whatever money you are putting in, you, instead of putting it on one deal, you put it on 10 deals or something like that. So the way I am personally approaching angel investment is that I set aside some amount of money every year, and then I just try to look at multiple deals and participate in them. That's what I'm doing.
Any advice on what's your view on sector or the area versus the founders? Who do you bet on more? Sorry, could you repeat the question? Who do you bet on more, the founding team or the sector they are going after?
Oh, the idea. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's, I personally look at 4 things, irrespective of the stage of the company, right? One is the idea. The second one is the team behind that idea, whether, do they have the staying power or not? And then is the market is big, whether, will they raise, if you're an angel investor, right, only 2 things you're looking for, can they raise money? That means that this company, will it pass the VC metrics, right, in terms of scale? Is the market big enough? Can they scale? And does it require more money and all of that stuff? That's the only thing that we can evaluate it against. And then, of course, if there are other companies also where they can truly be what I call self-sufficient, meaning with very little amount of money they can get into a positive cash flow, and then they keep running, right? In that case, you structure the deal differently with them. You still support them as an angel investment group, but you look at the ways of collecting some kind of annuity from them, right? Either in the form of dividend or some other buyback arrangement or something like that. But to answer your question, it's a combination of the 4 things that I take a look at it, right? It's idea, team, market, and what is the attraction when it comes to investor appetite or customer appetite.
Excellent. One last question, I think. I have not done anything, but you might know this. How has Thai Angel performed overall as a group versus other angels or other VCs?
Great question. What is our metric?
To
What is our
me,
own internal metric?
so only now there is some a pooling effect is happening. Earlier, even within Thai Angels, it was a pretty loosey-goosey arrangement in the sense that an entrepreneur come and presents to the Thai Angels, at least in the Silicon Valley, typically, when everything was in person and things like that, where people will come together and we will allow 6 company to present, the curated companies to present, and then once the curated companies present, and let's say if I like one of the 5 companies or 6 companies, then I am leading that, what do you call, diligence and all that stuff, and see if anybody else is interested. So if you don't have a volunteer, due diligence guy or a deal maker or whatever, then that most probably that investment goes on the wayside, right? So because of that, what happens is there were Thai Angels associated, but there's no one. Once I call it, the dating phase is over, right? I mean, who invested on what and who's tracking what is not that much, to my knowledge, is that much tracked. We are beginning to track it. I think Kumar's doing a good job in the Silicon Valley right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get some forward looking, in the years to come, we'll be able to look at that metrics. But historically, Thai Angels, we have invested in many companies, but there's no traceability in terms of what happened to those investments, what kind of ROI we got and all.
I had a couple of follow-up, but I'm going to pose that question to you. You can noodle on it, and then we'll get to Harsh's question. But on that point, 2 questions. One, what are your qualifying criteria, and has that changed over time in terms of which ones you pick broad-based? And number 2, you talked about measuring. Do you have a cadence of the investment you made in terms of having them report to you on a quarterly basis or monthly basis?
I was going to, thanks for pointing it out.
Okay.
So we get the investors, depending on which angel group, I'm also part of this partnership where I'm it's called India Impact Investment Partnership. I think I've talked to you about, where there what we do is we get the companies to present on a quarterly basis, and we demand a formal report. Whether they have board meeting summary or not, we have a set of questions that we ask, and those entrepreneurs present to us. But I see that, in our Thai Angels WhatsApp group and the mailing list and all that stuff, we see periodic reports from the entrepreneur and asking for, we ask them to ask for specific help, right? Instead of motherhood and apple pie, they say that, can somebody make connection to John Deere, or somebody can make a connection to Cisco? Those kind of specific requests, we try to fulfill from the network, because that's the value they see in working with us. But in terms to going back to your other questions, metrics, has it changed? The tools are changing because we have changed the platform. Earlier, we used to use Gust or something like that, I think. Now we're going to a new platform that has it's like a SaaS for angel investing.
Startup steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Startup. What is it called?
Startup for steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Startup steroid, or whatever it's called. Yeah. But anyway, that's the company that's the software that all of us are migrating to, and every angel investor on record for our chapter will have a login and all of that stuff, and they can look at the deals and see the progress and all that. So think of it almost like a CRM system, that we are doing. Yeah.
Let's go to Harsh. Go ahead, Harsh. You had your hand raised. You're muted, I think. Can't hear you.
That was always my number 3 speaker that I forgot to unmute. Great discussion, and AGK, you covered some of the components that relate to my question. But of the few deals that we've seen here in Thai Dallas, continuing on the thread of angel investing, how often in Silicon Valley do you see founders wanting mentorship, guidance, continued engagement from the investors, providing potential oversight or governance beyond just the capital? Again, speaking from my vantage point, we're seeing a lot of just great founders, great entrepreneurs that want the capital, but when it comes time to board positions or governance, they're kind of iffy or not an opportunity for that. So curious if that's just an isolated situation here in Dallas or a trend you're seeing in Silicon Valley as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think governance in terms of equation of like equating to board and oversight and all that stuff. There could be some pushback, right? Because end of the day, we are possibly in a convertible note situation when we make angel investments, right? It's the highest risk dollars that we are putting out there, right? So the way, but on the other hand, though, they are continuing to, the reason they accept money from Thai angels or angel investors in general is the fact that they want that their network, right? I mean, otherwise they don't need to give up equity for low amount of investment that we are making on the relative scheme of things, right? So mentorship, guidance, connections, leveraging network, all of that stuff is good. But when it comes to governance, it may or may not happen. And that's why some of the angel or early stage investment groups that we are seeing is that they try to invest a larger amount of money. And I'm a limited partner in one such thing called SV Quad, Silicon Valley Quad. And where they do is that they try to make like 10 investments or 12 investments per year, but they try to put several $1 million to work, meaning that their investor pool is larger. On a per deal basis, they invest anywhere between $2 to $3 million, and then you can possibly demand a board seat and governance and the different kind of rights. But if you're only investing in 6 figures or even less or something like that, then it's unrealistic from to even ask of the entrepreneur for a board seat. Is that did you answer? Did I get the yeah?
Yeah, you absolutely did. Again, I think we have only just started to make our initial investments as a group. So maybe over time we'll see that reporting come out and opportunities to engage with the management team to help grow their business. Because I think a lot of us, we have great backgrounds, great interest in helping grow these businesses beyond just the capital that we've invested. So good to hear from your vantage point that you're seeing that people are coming to us for our connections, for the network, and for the brand, and not just the dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not. I mean, I think if they're just coming, for just the money, I think they would go to a different group. That's all I'm saying. It could be, doctors or some other kind of family offices and things like that. They are just praying, and in our case, we are spraying and helping. Yeah. So it looks like we don't have any more questions, or we have more questions.
No, and not in the chat group, but we opened it up for everybody. Any other questions, folks? Great session, great set of questions from different standpoints. We covered a lot of different.
Ram, I may ask another kind of soft question on a completely different path.
Go ahead.
This might be more personal to Ram as well. I mean, Ram has a wonderful daughter who's super sharp. We see when we look at people around this room, we see in our investment group, we're predominantly men, right? What do we need to do, not just as Thai but as a community, to encourage and foster more women to be founders, to be entrepreneurs, to be in the business? What is our role in that journey?
Women.
You talked about how do we involve women more actively.
I mean, so I mean, it starts with this group, right? I mean, how many of your charter members are women is the question that you all need to ask. And because there's some sense of, I mean, who said that recently? It's very interesting. We had this, I think Kritika Reddy, our new board member, she's from SoftBank. She said she or somebody else said that apparently, I mean, she was comparing men versus women, right? I mean, apparently, if there is a job description, I think Indeed or one of these big job search sites talk about it, that women apparently when they're looking at job description and then they measure themselves against the job description, they won't apply for that job when they are not in their own mind that they're 100% ticked off. But whereas apparently men, if they look at the job description, sometimes 50-60% they feel that they got all the things that they want, right? So basically having these kind of understanding these kind of traits would help to motivate. But having said that, if Silicon Valley had the same problem, right? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the number of charter members who are women were very, very low in terms of percentage. And today, that's not the case. I mean, over the last 3 years, there's a continuous focus, and today our board is nearly 50% women, right? So that is one one trigger. And then we have to adopt. I mean, virtual also has helped to some extent. They participate a lot also because they don't have to drive up and take their time in the evening and all that stuff. So you just need to be flexible, and if you are conscious about it, and in our mind, while we focus, we want that to become natural also, right? Everybody should think of, hey, how do we involve women in general in all aspects of the tie, whether it's speakers, whether it's events, whether it's charter members, board members, all of those things. If you look at it that way, then there'll be some kind of a natural flair to this. That's what I would say.
Yeah, being more intentional about it.
Yeah.
In all aspects. Yeah. Great comment. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Sai, Jags, Doc, Anand? Anybody have?
No, I am fine.
Thank you, folks. And should we
Yeah,
just keep
thanks
should we keep AGK here for the rest of the weekend, or do we have some ideas on how to get him on a plane back to San Francisco? That's going to be our next adventure. His flight got canceled for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out ways. If you see me texting, that's what I'm trying to do, to see if somebody can. Some airlines, I didn't realize. I thought Dallas was supposed to be a hub, but doesn't look like one today. I don't hardly see any connection to take me back home.
You picked
But
the
one of
wrong
my
weekend
neighbors
for sure.
flew out.
Yeah.
One of my neighbors flew out last night, so flights are going. I guess it just depends on where you're flying out to. They flew out to Kansas City last night, and
Okay.
out of that was Fort Worth. So I guess you keep trying. Different airlines, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. Pray and hope. I have one ticket tomorrow evening now, and then I'm trying to see what else I can do. I wish I had a very good possibility to meet in person with a bunch of stalwarts in the valley tomorrow for lunch, but hopefully I get to make it before lunch. So.
Yeah, the problem with hub is, I think they rely so much on incoming planes. And the planes haven't come in.
Yeah, that's what's happening. The planes have not come in. I think that's what's happening.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Well, I think Ram may have a private jet somewhere, so you just fly out in Ram's private jet.
Yeah. Or I'll put on my virtual reality headset and participate tomorrow.
Go on Metaverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Metaverse.
All right. Hey, thank you. Have safe travel.
By the way, for those, I mean, I really wanted to get to know you all, but I mean, in an in-person scenario, we'd have shaken hands. What do you all do, by the way? If it's not a quick elevator stuff, I know Ram knows everybody, but that's okay.
I should have done that. My
That's fine.
apologies. Go ahead, Harsh.
Yeah, happy to. I think the rest of the group here is a lot more exciting than me. I'm in the investment management business, so I work with ultra high net worth business owners, founders. I'm focusing my practice on minorities and multinational families. So families like ourselves, that are from India, in LGBTQs and Asian families and Hispanics and African Americans. So just trying to do something different that brings some equity and equality in the world.
Oh, nice, wonderful.
Doc, I see your note. Before you leave, can you quickly give an intro before you leave? I would like to everybody to
Give me 30 seconds.
Okay, who wants to go next?
Hi, I'm Jags. I actually used to be Thai charter member 92, 93, 96, 97 is when I gave up. I got into the hospitality world and got away from tech. So built that business and recently ran into Sunny and he got me convinced to come back into Thai. So I'm back in.
Welcome back, Jags. Look forward
Thank
to
you.
working with you.
Okay. Hi, this is Doc here. My story is similar to Jag's. I joined in 97, 98, and then drifted away as I had my son, and I had more family responsibilities. Professionally, I'm involved in wireless communications. I do a lot of work in 5G. Started a company focusing on training all the way from executives to engineers on new technologies. And that's been my passion. I love it. So that's why I run Thai University. I actively participate in Thai youth programs. And that's what I do.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that, by the way. The Thai youth program is what is going to carry Thai forward, right? And as we all get more and more gray hair and no hair, I'm putting the cap, by the way, because if I remove it, somebody will say Ram and I are brothers.
And we've had that happen. We've had that happen. Some people have mistook me for him and him for me when we were in Dubai.
In Dubai. So anyway, so that aside, yeah, I mean, I think the Thai youth, to me is if Thai doesn't create a vibrant under 40 community, then it's like winding up. What happened to Churchill Club will happen to Thai also, right? So our idea is, I mean, we're very, very interested in creating that vibrant community.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think, and it's fun too. I think they're very creative people. They don't know any bounds. It's really, and they absorb things like sponges. There's very little impedance. I think they're very open to new ideas or basically discarding old ideas. And it's good to see them.
Yeah. I mean, our Thai youth program that we do for high school students, we get like participation from all around, right? People that hey, I participated in a Silicon Valley entrepreneurial boot camp or something like that. They get all very excited. So and then some inner city kids. There are some charter members of ours who actually sponsor these kids to pay whatever Thai charges, like $400 or something like that. So these kids benefit a lot, and that's our way of giving back. In addition to our charter membership, people donate to pay for these expenses. You should try that too, right? Because then we can make a difference to not only the Desi community, but we can also, I mean, the communities that was it Harsh was trying to serve also, right?
Yes.
Young women of other ethnicities, all of them would benefit actually. So
yeah, absolutely. And in fact, a funny story, I think the person who runs for us, Manoj, he was telling me that for him, parents were complaining to him that, hey, because of Thai youth program, their son, they wanted their child to become a doctor, and he decided to go into business. Okay. So they got into one of these grocery stores, and they were really taking him to task. Hey, man, what the heck did you do to my son? Okay.
Yeah.
I can go next. Can you hear me?
We can now. We can.
Yeah.
Okay. I know it may be pretty strange, but yeah. Anyway, my name is Sai, and so my background is basically I'm involved in a few startups. I know I asked all the semiconductor questions before, but the main one I'm involved is in the cyber privacy space. I don't know if you guys can hear me, and it's different from a lot of the cyber security plays out there, and it is more to do with surveillance on all of our devices, whether it's a smartphone, smart anything. And there is a lot of data that's collected on each and every one of us. So we are building a solution as part of the startup, how you can gain control of this whole scenario and basically reduce your data exposure, which is unbeknownst to you. So it's a whole in the cyber privacy space. And so yeah, being a full-on entrepreneur now, the other one is in the mobile device lifecycle management, launched to the secondary market when a lot of, for example, your smartphones are returned. They go through a full life cycle in terms of retesting, refurbishing, and clearing before they put it back into the market. Given there is a substantial percentage of returns, close to 15% to 20% here in the US, it's a pretty big market. And in that space, we have the software solutions to enable people to quickly put them back on the shelves for resale. So yeah, those are the couple of spaces.
Oh, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Anand, I think.
Anand? Thanks,
Yeah,
Sai.
I'm in process of starting a technology business, so just in transition. So, but I have spent most of my life in technology. So.
Mavener, right? You might know Mavener. Yeah, Mavener Systems. No, that's what Anand was spent a lot of time in. Okay.
It's a telecom equipment provider, just
Okay.
like Nokia and Ericsson. It has
Okay.
become big, like 6,000 people now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like a local Dallas phenomenon. So.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Well, are you guys gonna do your own happy hour in the office without us?
Yeah,
It
this
looks
is
like
what this is what it is. We are already,
They started early.
Well, AGK, we're gonna have to put a rain check on the happy hour the next time you're back in town.
Absolutely.
We would love to have a happy hour with you, come celebrate you, and all the time you've offered us today. We greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely, and I also appreciate you all taking the time, and feel free to, when you visit the Valley, please reach out to us. We are there for you, and and similarly when I come here again, I will. Thank you. So, yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Harsh, on our behalf. So thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, AGK, for the time and the opportunity to share this.
Thanks,
And,
guys.
Thank you, and I hope you find that flight back for lunch tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I have now like A, B, C, D options right now. I'm still trying to get to San Francisco before 11 o'clock if possible, so.
Well, if you're still stuck here, then if need be, I'll take you out to lunch tomorrow.
All right, thank you. I will
Yeah,
call
let's
on
do
you.
that.
I'll tell
Let's do that.
Ram about it also.
Sure, yeah. Maybe a bunch of us can get together and do that. Absolutely. All right.
Sounds like a plan. Take care.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Guys,
Bye.
thank you all.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye.